Hello guys, my name is Ahmad Muhammad Bande from AMB Studios. Today we are going to talk about After Effects CC 2018. But even if you have like 2015, 16 or 17 version or even 1920 version, it's all good, it's all the same. You can still use my method. Yes, thank you. So today we are going to talk about the introduction, learning objectives, planning and setup, planning your work, storyboards and scripts, welcome window, preference, exploring the workspace, toolbar, timeline, importing files, creating a new composition, and so on. So let's get started. As we all know, After Effects CC is an application that allows you to create dynamic, visually stunning motion graphics and cinematic visual effects. This application can be used to create 2D and 3D animation that allows you to also create dynamic text animation using the many typography tools within After Effects and so on. After that, you have to plan which version are you going to use, and after that you have to follow the tutorials on maybe online or YouTube to learn more in the application. So let's get started with the welcome window in After Effects. This is a toolbar housing all the tools that you will use to create your projects, and this, the first one, is a toolbar. Here it's called the panel. Is where you will be able to see all the files that you have imported in After Effects for this project and any pre-compositions you may have. While here it's called timeline. This is the area in your workspace where you will do a majority of your work. In the timeline, you will keyframe your sections, add effects and presets, and work with your layers. While here, you can see I've clicked libraries, but it's called the effect and presets panel. This panel holds all of the default effects and presets that you can add to your project. Once you become more familiar with the After Effects program, you can know more. You can add more to this panel. While here on this preview is the preview panel. When you are still working on your project and would like to preview what you have so far or a certain section of your project, the preview panel will help you do so. Keep in mind that when previewing something using this panel, it is not being played in real time and it will take long, maybe. While here is the composition window. This is the area where you will be able to see the projects that you are working on. So let's talk about the toolbar here. So here is the toolbar. When using After Effects, you will use the toolbar quite often. Let me just say maybe almost all your projects you will use the toolbar. Some of the tools have additional tools linked within them. Utilize the small gray triangles to open up the additional tools under each button. So here, number one is called the selection tool. You can just press V on the keyboard to open it if you don't want maybe long process. The selection tool is the most commonly used tool. It is used to select text and graphics frames and allows you to work with an object using its bounding box. While the second one here is called the hand tool. It allows you to grab an object in the composition window so that you can move it around the frame. Its key on the keyboard is the H key. While the third one is called the zoom tool. This allows you to zoom in on your project within the composition window. While the rotation tool takes the selected object and rotate it to your desired position wherever you like it. While the unified camera tool allows you to set up the position of your camera. The next one is the palm behind anchor points. It moves the anchor point of the object that is selected here. While the next one is called the rectangle tool, it creates a rectangle shape object. More shapes can be found by clicking on the small gray triangle in the corner. Here, I haven't uploaded any new footage, that is why it is blank. The next one is called the pen tool. Use this tool to draw a path for text to generate a stroke. While the next one is called the horizontal to add text to your composition. While the next one is called the brush tool. It is used to paint or brush a path as a design element in your footage. While the next one is called the clone stamp tool. It is used to duplicate an item within the layer without creating a new layer. Maybe if you want to do it fast, you don't want to waste time, so you can use it to clone any layer. While the next one is called the eraser tool. It erases a part of your composition or of a certain layer. While the next one is the roto brush tool. It allows you to define the foreground of your layer, and while the one is the puppet pin tool. It adds pins to your layer to stretch and animate your layer. So I think I'm gonna import a footage. Maybe let's make it simple because this is just a tutorial. Let me just edit a green screen video. Remove. So like I said, we are going to import a new file. So file. Let me green screen. Let's say this one. After clicking the import file, it will import the file into the dialog box, as you can see right here. After we have chosen the file, so let's create. Let's quickly update it. Edit. Let's head here to this. You can close this panel if you don't want it. Just head to Effect and Preset. I'm sorry for having this because I don't have enough memory in it. That's why it's moving too slow. Just search for key light. Here it is, key light 1.2. And paste it. After that, just hit here and just once you have selected the eyedropper tool, to click on the background video file that you would like to reduce a color in that area, most of the background. While most of the background is gone, hover your mouse over the number slide out like this. As you can see, we have removed the background. Very easy, right? It's quite taking too long. So maybe we want to put some, maybe just add it here. I can increase the size 1000. That's 500 makes sense. Let's make it 500. 400. Alright. So that's how the screen works after Effects. A simple way of doing it to use edit screen and so on. This works. If you want to save your file, just head up here, click Save As. Just type any name you want. It will save as an AAP After Effects project file. As you can see, it is. You have saved your file. After saving it, I think what's next for you is the rendering the video. To render it, so head out to the composition here, click on add to render HQ. Once you have completed the project, you will want to render it. To render your project, you have two options. You can either add to the render queue or you can add to Adobe Media Encoder. The render queue tab will open. In the output module section, click the word here, lossless. After clicking that, you can come here and choose your audio output. Select if you want your rendering to be fast, change this format to QuickTime. After doing all this, you can click OK. I think here you can change. You can change your saving finiteness. But so just leave it like this. So render it. Just click render to start. As you can see, time and estimate minute for rendering completed. Here is the stop and here is the cost. It's 1 minute 27 seconds to complete. This is one of my recent projects. Lastly, I want to tell you guys, in After Effects you have to set up your plans so that it will be more easier for you. This is just not even half of After Effects. Let me just say 10% out of 100 of After Effects editing video. Don't think maybe do the move green screen and so whatever. Yeah, just done with it. No, absolutely not. You have a lot things, but we create new project. The plans that I will tell you if you are going to use After Effects to help you very much in your project. For the information will help you in planning and setup of Adobe After Effects before you begin and while working on your projects. So let's start with planning. It's your work. You know, the hardest choices requires the strongest will. You have to make a choice. What I'm going to do, what am I going to edit, and so on and so on. Planning always comes first. If you don't have a plan, you're just running on your way, you don't know where to take you. Planning your work. Correct project settings, preparation of footage, and initial composition settings can help you to avoid errors and unexpected results when rendering your final output movie. Before you begin, think about what kind of work you'll be doing in After Effects and what kind of output you intend to create. Because if you don't know that, I'm sorry for you. After you have planned your project and made some basic decisions about your project settings, because you have to, before you even import your footage into After Effects, you have to think first. Yes, I need to insert this, insert that, put this, put that, all that. You will be ready to start importing footage and assembling compositions from layers on to import. But the best way to ensure that your movie is suitable for a specific medium is to render a test movie and view it using the same type of equipment that your audience will use to view it. For example, if your video is going to be used for a DVD, try watching it on a TV. Watch it first. Share that with your friends because they said 2 heads are always better than 1 head. So just share that with your friends and family so that you know whether if it is good or not based on their feedback on your movie. It's best to do such tests before you have completed the difficult and time-consuming part of your work too early. That will be easier for you and make things go well. So the second part is storyboards and scripts. Let's just call it screenplays. Whenever you are watching a movie, post-credit scenes that you watch after watching the whole action. Usually you used to see The names of the screenplays pop up in the post-credit scene of all movies. Every movie has a screenplay. So, before you begin your shooting footage or creating animations, it is often best to start by planning your movie with storyboards and a script. If you don't have a script written down for what you are going to do, then absolutely you are making things too hard for you. Create a story. Can use story to collaboratively write and manage screenplays. Maybe if you can't write your script in paper, you can use your computer. Just use Microsoft Word or anything similar to that notepad. Just write down all your scripts, print it out wherever you are working on it. You're looking at it, following the steps that you have written before. Adobe Story also converts information from a screenplay into XMP metadata that can automate the creation of shooting scripts, short lists, and more. This is just the second part. The third part that I want to advise you is acquiring, choosing, and preparing footage. This is very, very, very important. So please listen to this. Before importing your footage, first decide which media and format you'll use for your film movies, and then determine the best settings for your source material. Often it's best to prepare footage before importing it into After Effects, like I told you earlier. For example, if you want an image to fill your composition frame, configure the image in Adobe Photoshop so that the image size and pixel aspect ratio match the composition size and pixel aspect ratio. Because if the image is too large when you import it in After Effects, you increase the memory and processor requirement of the components that use it. Like you have seen earlier that my computer is running too slow. I told you it's because of my RAM. So you have to make sure you have a good RAM and a good graphics processor on your computer. Check your Intel core and your graphics. Make sure it supports. If the image is small, again, you'll lose image quality when you scale it to the desired size. You see, that's a much work. See pixel aspect ratio and frame aspect ratio. If you can shoot footage with consistent lighting and colors, and otherwise prevent the need to do a lot of tedious utility work in post-production, then you'll have more time for creative work. If possible, use uncompressed footage or footage encoded with lossless compression. Lossless compression means better results for many operations such as skin and motion tracking. When you come across that later, I'll teach you what is, maybe let's say, tracker. It's a in After Effects. You don't need to buy it or download it from any site. It's already tracking. So you can, there is 3D tracker and tracking also. We'll come to that later. Certain kinds of compression, yes, such as the compression used in DV encoding, are especially bad for color keying because they discard the subtle differences in color that you depend on for good blue screen or green screen keying. It's often best to wait until the final rendering phase to use composition or lossless compression if possible. Use footage with a frame rate that matches that of your output so that After Effects doesn't have to use frame blending or similar methods to fill in missing frames. I hope you get it. Tell you a secret. After Effects is easy to use, but you as a user using After Effects, you will be the one to make it easy for you, not the developer of the software, because the developer already developed it, published it for people to use it. So to him, it's pretty easy. But for you as a user, you are the one that will decide whether if you want it to be easy or not. So essentially choose your side. The kind of work that you'll be doing in After Effects and the kind of output movie that you want to create can even influence how you shoot and acquire your footage. For example, if you know that you want to animate using motion tracking, consider shooting your scene in a manner that optimizes for motion tracking. For example, using tracking markers. Also consider that if room for post-production, whether for fake pans and zooms or for stabilization. So that's why whenever you want to make a movie, you need a good camera, at least try for a 4K Ultra HD camera, so that usually whenever you want to use motion tracking, so it needs large frame size, so that requires a good camera. At least try and afford 4K Ultra HD camera. It's quite good. So last but not the least, project settings. Let's talk about project settings. Project settings fall into three basic categories: how time is displayed in the project, treated in the project, and what sampling rate to use for audio. One of these settings. The color settings are the ones that you need to think about before you do much work on a project, because they determine how color data is interpreted as your input footage files, how color calculations are performed as you work, and how color data is converted for final output. If you enable color management for your project, the colors that you see are the same colors that your audience will see when they view the movie that you create. That's why, if you recall earlier, that we said before you publish your movie, try watching it, share it with your friends and family. You'll know whether if it is good or not. So composition settings. After you prepare and import footage to create layers in your composition where you animate and apply effects. When you create a composition, specify composition settings such as resolution, frame size, and pixel ratio. Pixel aspect ratio for a final rendered output, although you can change composition settings at any time. We'll come across that later. It's best to set them correctly as you create each new composition to avoid unexpected results in your final rendered output. For example, if you're rendering and exporting a composition to more than one media format, always match pixel dimensions for your composition, the largest pixel dimension used for your output. Later, you can use output modules to render queue panel, encode and export a separate version of composition for each format. So let's talk about the performance solutions. This is very important too, because as you can see, this application, once you use imports, it requires a huge space on your disk. So if you work with large compositions, Make sure that you configure After Effects on your computer to maximize performance. Complex compositions can require a large amount of memory to render, and the rendered movies can take a large amount of disk space to store. Before you attempt to render a 3-hour movie, make sure that you have the disk space available to store it in your computer. So, as we said, not everything requires money, or not everything needs money, but everything needs money. Money is not everything, but everything needs money. Yes, yes. True. Because if your source footage files are on a slow disk drive or across slow network connection, then performance will be poor. When possible, keep the source footage files for a project on a fast local disk drive. Ideally, you'll have 3 drives, one for source footage files, one from which the application runs, and one for rendered output. Cross-platform considerations. After Effects project files are compatible with Mac OS and Windows operating systems, but some factors, mostly regarding the locations and naming of footage files and support files, can affect the ease of working with the same project across platforms. Project file path. When you move a project file to a different computer and open it After Effects, attempt to locate the project effects first. Searches the folder in which the file is located. Second, it searches the file's original path or folder location. And finally, third, it searches the root of the directory where the project is located. If you are building a cross-platform project, it's best if the full path have the same names of Mac OS and Windows systems. If the footage and the project are on different volumes, make sure that the appropriate volume is mounted before opening the project and that network volume names are on the same on both systems. It's best to store footage in the same folder as the project file and another folder within that folder. Alright. You can copy the new project folder as we did save as footage. Use the collect files feature to gather copies of all the files in a project into a single folder. You can then move the folder containing the copied project to the other platform. So, file naming conventions. Name your footage and project files with the appropriate file name extension, such as .mov for QuickTime movies and .aep for After Effects project. If files will be used on the web, be sure that file names are added to applicable conventions for extension and path. So resources for After Effects are: ensure that all fonts, effects, codecs, and other resources are available on both systems. Such resources are often plugins. If you use a native After Effects in a project in one operating system, the effect will still work on other operating systems to which you have transferred your project. Like I told you earlier, if it is 2015, 2016, 2017, or 18 or 19 or 20 version, it's like you can still open maybe the projects that you have saved from 2015 Effect version. You can still open it on 2019 After Effects. It will still work. Some third-party effects and other third-party plugins may not continue to operate even if you have versions of these plugins on the target system. In such cases, you may need to apply some third-party effects. So I think for today we are going to stop here to our next class. Well, additional support, please contact us through my Instagram account, Pende. Link is on the description down below, or through my Twitter account at ANB Studios. Also, the link is on the description down below. So that if you need any support, just DM me. I'll make sure and help you. Thank you all for supporting us, and be ready for our new movie project, Thunderbolt. As you watch, I know you have already watched it.